How's it going, party people? Skydubs here, back again with another legit game review. Today we're doing a Swap Force review on the PS4, but differently. I'm not only going to be reviewing the game, I'm also gonna fully complete absolutely everything this game has to offer gameplay wise, because I'm fully convinced nobody has ever done this, or at least on Nightmare mode. Now, all of the losers that don't like Skylanders Giants always complain about the fact it doesn't change enough from SSA and that it feels like just an expansion. Well, unlike Giants, Swap Force changed almost everything about the game because the main developers were Vicarious Visions, and since it released in the October of 2013, it was the first Skylanders game available for the new gen consoles, and that led to some interesting new features which we are going to talk about today. So, turn on the PS4, connect the portal and start the game. You need a new portal. Amazing. But it's fine because the reason for it is the new swap gimmick, so it makes sense. Even though the Swap Force figures work perfectly fine on the old portal in Imaginators, but we can just ignore that. It's just good old Activision, as always. But as I just mentioned, we have a new Skylanders gimmick, and that's the Swap Force. Basically, you have 16 new Skylanders, which are actually quite big, and you can break them in half, and you can swap the body parts, and this is my favorite Skylanders gimmick, because it's really fun to swap the figures, and try a total of 256 different combinations, which lead to several ways of torturing enemies, and you can tell they put a lot of effort into designing them, as they are all really fun, and they even put effort into animating every single animation for every single combination, even stuff like death animations and the overall way they move, and I just love the way Skating with Freeze Blade's bottom half looks. And Swap Force also has the biggest roster. Not only 60 new swappers, but also 60 new cores, 8 new light cores, 16 new reposes, and multiple variants, so yeah, you can tell they really wanted a lot of money. The problem with this is that throughout completing this game, I didn't use a single Skylanders that isn't a giant or a swapper, which shows just how useless the cores are because of how common the swap zones and jewel gates are for swappers, so you barely have any time to play with cores, but I thankfully just finished the core lock, so I know which ones are good. The best Skylanders are Spyrise, who has an insanely complex moveset, which is really fun to use, Night Shift because he has additional lives, Magna Shift because he can throw enemies off the cliff at any time and has a move very similar to Drobot's, which actually makes Magna Shift the best Skylander in this game. Additional lives plus throwing enemies plus Drobot's main move is unstoppable, so Drobot is sadly no longer the best Skylander, but I still love him. And other great Skylanders are Popthorn, Scratch, Frino, Freeze Blade, Washbuckler, Stink Bomb, Smolder Dash, Punk Shock, and Bumble Blast. Also, the Skylander designs are amazing in this game, so props to whoever designed them because they look great. And one last thing about the roster is that Giants are pretty useless as well. They get the giant chests, but they are not needed for completion, they are needed only for free accolades, so they are pretty much useless. Now it's time to actually start a new save file. As always, Nightmare mode, because we are not cowards, and we see Eon introduce us to Skylands, and we are introduced to the elementals who come to the volcano every 100 years for the great eruption, and I immediately have a problem with this. Yeah, just so you know, I will do this a lot. I'll be complaining a lot in this video, so if you're somebody who really loves this game, this video will probably annoy you. But yeah, these elementals are the Flashwind, Terra Squid, Frost Hound, and Tree Spirit. And the first problem with this is, man, the whole thing about Skylanders are the 8 elements, and here we only have 4 elementals. It would make sense if there were 8 of them, and 2 of them are probably the same water element, which is even dumber. But yeah, anyways, they are here to make the eruption magic or something. I'm not sure what their purpose is, but all of a sudden a giant mysterious figure appears and starts sending fire vipers to attack the elementals, and here comes the swap force to save the day. But once the volcano erupted, the swap force got the ability to swap their body parts, and they were sent to Earth. Yeah, it's a pretty solid intro, as it actually keeps the villain's secret, something which Spire's Adventure failed to do with Chaos, and the explanation of how the swap force ended up on our planet is pretty decent as well. After that, we see Flynn going to see the eruption and talking to Callie and Hugo, but then his set flies away, so he turns his TV off and we never see Hugo and Callie again in this game. And you know what that means? No more heroic challenges, finally. But then we get the Callie replacement as we meet Tessa, and since we all know that Flynn is famous for saying boom after everything, Vivi decided to give Tessa the catchphrase of kablam, which is insanely cringe, and I can't even excuse it as something that's for kids, because even I as a kid found this cringe. Her bird is called Whiskers, and it's a pretty cool bird, but Tessa is here to tell us that her home is being under attack. And it just so happens that Flynn has Skylanders on his side, so we decide to help her. But first, we must go into the volcano. This is where we get to play as our Skylanders for a little, and it's both a cool and sad section as we see Flynn's ship get absolutely wrecked. We also fight some enemies and get introduced to Chompies, as always, and the new Greebles, which are similar to Cyclopses and Trolls from previous games, and I'd like to add that they weren't really necessary in this game because later down the road we get to fight both Trolls and Cyclopses, so I don't see what was the point of adding an entire species which act the same way, and obviously neither did they, because Greebles aren't featured in any game apart from Swap Force, so make of that what you will. But we get out of the volcano and Flynn's ship is completely ruined, but Flynn has somehow survived and failed to get injured in the slightest, and then we can start with the actual gameplay. Immediately there are some huge changes that we notice. First of all, the graphics. Now, as I said, this was the first Skylanders game on the new gen console, so they decided to step up their game when it comes to graphics, and while almost everybody who has talked about this game praises them, I'm not so sure how I feel about them. On one hand, we have some absolutely beautiful and breathtaking levels and areas. They look so good that even at certain point, I, who never cared about graphics, am absolutely amazed by how beautiful stuff looks, and it's highlighted in some jewel elemental gates that are gorgeous. But on the other hand, this game often looks blurry, and at certain areas the graphics just kinda don't seem right, and we have certain designs which are woeful. People usually complain about Flynn's design, but I don't really see anything bad about it. My problem is the designs of Skylanders from previous games. They kind of look plastic and way too realistic. For example, Pop Fizz and Trigger Happy get this really awkward looking fur, and it just doesn't sit right with me. I guess I finally understand why everybody complained about the Fur K in Insane Trilogy. And also some enemies are also weird, like the design for Chompies is horrible, and Cyclopses looked so much better in Giants. I mean, even Spyro looks worse than he already did, which I didn't expect to be possible. But there are other changes in this game, and the most obvious one is the addition of jumping. Yes, they have finally added jumping on the consoles, and honestly, it's not that great. Like, I know I've been begging for jumping to be added, and it's certainly a huge positive for this game, but if I were to talk about the actual jumping itself, then this is possibly the stiffest jumping I've ever seen. Like, thank God there isn't any complex platforming in this game, and thank God that you don't take damage when you fall down, because otherwise this would be painful, as you can barely make a solid 50% of the most basic jumps the game gives you. Like, this should be easy, but I'm barely making these jumps, which is just lame, and the whole jump is kinda slow. Maybe it's cause I'm used to fast-paced platformers, but it feels very slow for some reason. And that's about it for jumping, but that's not it for the new additions. The levels are now structured differently. They are much longer because there is a huge ton of collectibles in each of them, and that's because they changed the collectibles as well. We still have legendary treasures, treasure chests, soul gems, story scrolls, winged sapphires, and hats, but we obtain them in different ways now. Soul gems and story scrolls are pretty much the same, and treasure chests are slightly different because you unlock some of them by doing a puzzle, but in SSA and Giants, hats and levels were only obtained through elemental gates, and there was only one legendary treasure in a level. But now, every single time you get a present, inside of it can be a hat, legendary treasure, bonus mission map, or a winged sapphire, and you can get them by completing elemental gates and swap zones, and there are multiple legendary treasures in a level. And on top of that, we have a new collectible, which is just random stuff you can find in levels, like Flint's ship parts, balloons, and so on. And you can tell why the levels are so long when each level has between 15 and 20 collectibles, compared to Giants, which had like 12 at most. I actually like the new collectibles though, because some of them are hidden very well, so it adds a solid challenge that I actually think is good. And now that I've talked about that, let's finally start playing the game. The dialogue is not skippable. Great. Obviously, if you are into listening to NPCs talk, then this is great for you, but it's really lame that I need to hear every single piece of dialogue without the ability to skip. I understand the first level, that always happens, but it happens on every level. And even later, when you replay the levels and you can skip the dialogue, you still need to wait a couple of seconds before skipping, whereas in SSA and Giants, as soon as you enter the dialogue, you could skip it. I know I'm complaining about a couple of seconds, but it has genuinely been pissing me off for quite some time now. But okay, we are done with that, and Tessa tells us that we need to save the Mabus, I guess? No, they aren't Mabus, they are foxes. Okay. I mean, again, this is the same situation with the Greebles. Why are we adding a completely new species when we already had one that functions the same way and isn't used anywhere in this game? It's just stupid, but yeah, we can finally start the game! And it's pretty good. Yeah, I actually like this, and as always, this is the first level, so we have the usual introductions to everything. First, Battle Gate, and Mr. Yappy introduces us to the first Elemental Gate. And now there are these double elemental gates for your swappers, and they are a combination of the regular elemental gates, and they can be pretty interesting. And as we fight more Greebles, we notice that the animals are getting trapped, and we don't know why, so we will just go along with it. But the next thing we get introduced to is a swap zone. Each swapper has a certain ability, and you have these swap zones that utilize 8 different abilities. And it's insane how disappointing they are. Instead of the swap force having a special power because of their swap ability, we get these mini games which most of the time take you completely away from the level and are quite bad. And after completing the swap zones, you get a present. But wait, it doesn't say you completed it, it says you unlocked the swap zone. Oh, no, that's because you need to replay the swap zone and get all 3 stars on it. Oh, and did I mention that there are 3 of these swap zones per level, and that all swap zones for a certain ability are always the same, just slightly changed and with a different design depending on the looks of the level, meaning that since you have 14 levels, you need to beat 42 swap zones during the levels and then beat those 42 again, but now with new challenges to get free stars, and meanwhile they are all pretty much the same with barely any change to them. Don't you think this is slightly fucking repetitive? And like everyone always praises the bonus content in Swap Force, but there's a difference between good bonus content and bad bonus content, and this is just repeating the same thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You get the point. And what makes them even more disappointing is that Swap Force on the 3DS did them 10 times better. But I'll talk about that when I review that game. And as I've said, the swappers are the best gimmick, so it's like a trade. You get something incredibly good, and then you get something incredibly bad. It's like a soul for a soul. Anyways, we continue going through the level. We see some cool areas, especially the ones that are full of honey. I like them a lot, and then we get a rail grind, and they're fine, I guess. They add pretty much nothing, so it's not that important, and it's anyways better than just a teleporter. But yeah, we kill more greebles, we end this level, which is quite a good introduction, apart from its insane length. And it has actually grown on me a lot since the level ranking, and I'd say it's like an 8 out of 10 level, which is great. But now the the foxes are free now. Oh god. That's right. Yeah, it's time to meet the worst NPC in Skylanders, Rufus. He's like your guide for Woodboro, but he doesn't guide you anywhere, he just stands in front of the lake and bores you to death, and this is truly where not being able to skip regular dialogue is highlighted. Listening to Rufus every time I enter the fucking game is so stupid, and as they say in Giants, when you enter the game, you're just put in your hub area without anyone being annoying, and then you do what you want to do. But now you have this piece of shit telling you, oh, maybe you should go to Avril to do some time score challenge. Like, shut up. And I think everyone can agree that Rufus is the worst NPC ever. After that, we meet the Hip Bros, which is a horrible name. And here we have Tuck and Gorm. Gorm is the typical strong and shredded dumbass who replaces Persephone, while Tuck replaces Auric for some reason, and as always, I don't see the need in adding new characters when we already have those roles fulfilled. But basically, Gorm destroyed the power pod and we have to repair it, and once we do, this is the place where we achieve physical perfection, because we upgrade here, and upgrades are the same as always, but the cool thing about swappers is that both halves have two paths, so there are even more ways of making combinations, which is actually amazing. As for Tuck, we help him open his store up where we can buy hats, legendary treasures, charms, and a bonus mission map, and I must say, it's really nice seeing 9 years of work with your Skylander get wasted in less than a minute. Nah, I'm joking, the prices aren't actually that bad, so this is all fine. As for the hub area, it's called Woodboro, and it's pretty much as big as the ruins, and it's not that great. Like, it looks great and all, and I love the fast travel thing, because, as I said, this place is huge, so that's a nice addition, but it's not as memorable, or interesting, or lively as the ruins, and it definitely isn't anywhere close to Flynn's ship. Okay, before we continue the story, they give us this far speaker, which is like an explanation as to why we can hear Flynn when we are like 10 kilometers away, and I actually like that. You know, they're actually trying to explain stuff that makes no sense, which is cool in my opinion. But yeah, our next goal is to find the chiefess who has been kidnapped by Greebles, and so we go to Cascade Glade. This is a decent level, slightly weaker than Mount Cloudbreak, and nothing really sticks out here, but before we start it we get a cutscene where we meet Chaos, and we find out that his plan is to evilize all elementals so that the eruption evilizes every single alive thing in Skylands. and he shows us how it works when he evilizes Greebles. And I like this plot. The evilizing thing is cool, as we will see down the road. And in this level, we meet those cobblepods that eat enemies, and that's cool and all. They're kinda lame, but I get that they were only here so that you can get an arena battle based around them. But there is also this weird telescope thing where you go up to a telescope, zoom in on a shining thing, and you unlock some money which you collect later down the road, and this is confusing to me. Like, I just don't get the point of this. It shows up occasionally throughout the entire game, and I will never understand what's the point of it. Like, you barely get any gold. If you found like a winged sapphire from them, then that would be fine, but this is just kinda confusing. In this level, we also get introduced to the new puzzle locks, and again, what was the point of changing the old puzzle lock? I mean, it already sucked, but now adding an even worse version is stupid. The point of these is to merge the blue and green bolt and possibly collect these lightnings if you want, so you can get some extra gold. And they feel very two-player focused, which doesn't make much sense, but yeah. Anyways, you fight some evil-eyed Greebles, go through these cool-looking caves, and witness this great intro for a new enemy. And this is one of the most memorable ones, and it always cheers me up. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, remember in Spyro's Adventure in Giants when you'd meet a new enemy and you'd get like a short intro for most of them? Well, they've taken that to a new level in Swap Wars, because now you get a cutscene, and I'm not sure how I feel about them. 90% of them are just attempting to be goofy, and it can be funny at times, but it feels slightly forced, so I'm not that impressed. This level is still just fine though, and I'd say it's like a 6 out of 10. But now we rescue the chiefess and these two other dudes that literally nobody cares about, and we go back to Woodboro. But we have met a new NPC in this level, and that's Snagglescale. And this definitely should have been Gurglefin, and it's disappointing that it wasn't, though it kinda makes sense because later Snagglescale is the one who introduces us to arena battles, and yeah, they are back as well, and they may be even better than the ones in Giants. But we will talk about them later. Oh yeah, and by the way, did I mention this game can be brutal? I mean, the enemies deal such a huge ton of damage. Like, I almost died on the first level, and died on the second one. Obviously, I can still use my man Drobot when stuff gets tight, but if your Skylander doesn't have a move that throws enemies, then the Skylander is pretty much worthless, which is a shame. And they sort of ruin the combat by adding that because it makes it way too easy. Though, you know, I do use Magna Shift, who can just pick up enemies and throw them off the edge, and I know it's lame to fight like this. But you know, if they thought it was good enough to publish, then I'll absolutely abuse it without a single problem. But yeah, after the level we find out Chaos's wish to evilize the elementals, but then he gets into a small argument with Glomshanks. So as any normal person would do, he fucking evilizes him and shows him that he's better than him. But yeah, after that, Chiefess tells us to rescue the elementals, and the first one is the Flashwind, who is located in Mudwater Hollow, which is the third level of the game. We get there and see that Greebles are flying around him and trying to evilize him, and I'm sorry, if he can do this, why doesn't he just destroy these 4 small crystals around him? I mean, I guess that would be too easy. So since he's incompetent when it comes to saving himself, we are the ones who must do it, and this is not a good level. The Swamp Village thing is cool and the ending is great, but first of all, we are introduced to the fishing gimmick, and this is absolutely horrible. It's so boring and feels pointless again, and it isn't that common throughout the game, thank goodness, but every time it does show up, it annoys me, and it's very common in this level, so that automatically means that this level annoys me. The next thing is not related to this level, but they've changed the spell punks. I don't mind the design change, even though I think the old spell punks were better, but they all have an attack and a power. The life one still heals enemies, but now it heals them so fast and so much that it's impossible to kill an enemy when there's a spell punk in the area, so I'm fine with that. because it has more challenge. The air one still does the same thing, and the undead one spawns trolls instead of rhubarbs, which is like 10 times harder, and the magic one makes enemies invisible, and this is another one that adds more challenge, but I don't like this one. I think it's actually quite annoying. But yeah, back to Mudwater Hollow. Another thing that annoys me, there are many things that annoy me here, but this one especially annoys me, and it's the raft stages, which are just there so that you can get to a new area, but most of the time I die in them. And yes, that's because I'm bad, but even if you take out the mines, it's still boring. Like, you just listen to Snagglescale talk. Wow, so entertaining. Nothing else happens, but it doesn't matter anyways because you'll be too focused on avoiding the mines. But we stop with the raft because gates are locked, and then we get off and we need to find the gear to open the gates. Then at the checkpoint of this level we get to this village. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this. Man, there are so many new additions, I keep forgetting about some of them. But yeah, now each level has a checkpoint. And it's like a decent addition, but it's not executed that well. You can only go to a checkpoint of the last level you played, so it's pretty much only there if you miss something in a level and immediately want to go back and collect it, or you can cheese the no lives lost by skipping the first half of the level. So it is kinda useful, but I think it could have been much better. Alright, let's return to Mudwater Hollow now. We were in the village, and now we need to beat the enemies and save the village, and then we meet this guy who is called the Magic Circle Keeper. As you can tell, the creativity has reached another level with names like this one, or when you fight a snake boss fight that's called Snake. There is also another one which is called Bird. Yeah, I have nothing to say, but yeah, let's finish the level. It's fun to explore the village. We meet these cool animals called bog hogs, and you can bounce on them, and it's all fun, and then they get turned into monsters which you need to kill. Nah, I'm joking, this is a family-friendly game at the end of the day, so they cannot die, they just turn back into their old form once you beat them up. After that, we destroy the evil ice crystals and save the Flashwind, who goes back to Woodboro to chill in a bubble, I guess? Alright. But yeah, Mudwater Hollow, it's a very weak level, and I'd give it a 3 out of 10. Now it's time to meet up with Eon, who gives us the Portal Master rank level, which functions by collecting stars that help you unlock new stuff. But it's mainly for Tuck's shop, which is a shame because I feel like this has a lot of potential, but you only unlock mostly hats and legendary treasures and a couple of charms and bonus mission maps. I do like the bonus mission maps, but I feel like it's sort of pointless to even go for the stars then, because the hats aren't even that good. I feel like it should have unlocked bonus content, maybe more arena battles or something like that. I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. But it is what it is. We have to move on, and next up we need to find the source of Chaos's crystals, but in the meantime, Glomshanks has moved to the Rampant Ruins, which is the source of Evil Ice crystals, but we have a plan to beat him, and that is a stone monkey. Yeah, this level is great. I think everyone agrees that this is one of the best levels in the game, and it's one of the rare levels that doesn't last for 70 years. And here we meet three folks who are searching for crystals, and I actually like these guys. They are like Stump Smash's family, so that's cool. And we also meet these cute sugar bats. They're pretty cute until they get evilized, and now we gotta beat them up as well. And what I like is that this is also the only Archean themed level in this game. And you fight a lot of Archeans in it, and see a lot of Archean design stuff. And I love the Archeans, so I love the level. But I don't like these puzzles, they're just pointless. And there's this really weird elemental gate where you scratch a stone block's back. I honestly have no idea what to even say about this. So let's move on, I guess. Yeah, halfway through the level, we see Glomshanks and he starts shooting rockets at us. And then we free the monkey, he defeats Glomshanks, and the level is over. Nothing has changed, this is still a 9 out of 10 level. But after it, Glomshanks is for some reason still alive, even though he got shanked 3 seconds ago. So now he builds an arcane drill and sadly kills the monkey. And now we have to fight him. This is the first boss fight in the game and it's solid. I'm not gonna talk too much about the bosses because I already have an entire video about them. But yeah, each boss fight is looked at as a different level for some reason, even though they are clearly a part of the level before them, but they have their own objectives as well, and it's to not die and to not get damaged. And I do like the don't get damaged objective because it's fun. It can be hard, but I am way too good at this game. But yeah, once we defeat him, he explodes and turns back into his regular self, and then explodes again. And after that, we get this cutscene, and I love this little reference.
Why, what's the matter, Glomshanks? You look, different somehow. Say, Glomshanks, you look different somehow. I don't know.
But during this cutscene, we finally meet the mysterious figure who started this whole shit, and that is Chaos's mom, as it was teased at the end of Skylanders Giants. And I think they wanted her to be the main villain, but she really feels like a side character, and I'm not a huge fan of her. But after that we go back to Woodboro, and our task is to find the ancient terror squid somewhere in a desert. But we need Sharpfin's help to find out where she is located, so the next stop is Jaw Gulch, which is a place full of Sharpfin's kind, and possibly Terrafin's cousins. They are cool people and they are all sheriffs, but they are getting attacked by pirate greebles and we must help them by destroying the big pirate ships. This is another example of the game trying too hard to be funny, but it is a kids game. So I will ignore it, I just wanted to point it out to prove my older point with the intro cutscenes. And here we start with the desert area and it's not that great. It's another boring level and mines are everywhere, which is pretty annoying. Apart from the sharks, we meet a completely new species here, and those are kangaroos. They're actually quite cool and have these mini puzzles where we jump on the music things to help them dance. And I'm not a fan of this, but it's not bad by any means, so yeah. Kangaroos, they are quite cool. Until they get evil eyes, then now are an enemy that's trying to kill you. Great. And another enemy that wants you dead is the new fire golem. I actually like the golems, and I wish we got one for every single element, but hey, the ones we got are still fine. Except from you. I despise you. So yeah, we defeat the pirate greebles, and now we find out that Sharpfin is a drug dealer, I guess, who lives in Motleyville, which is a scrapyard in the middle of a desert. Yeah, that's about it for this level. Jaw Gulch, it's still boring, so yeah, 4 out of 10. That's it. Before we go to Motleyville, one of the kangaroos comes to Woodboro to show us these pedestals that you can put your legendary treasures on, and then you'll get additional stats, which is actually a great addition. Though only one of them gives you a speed boost, but it's still quite cool. On a side note, this reminds me a lot of the enchanting rooms in Minecraft. I'm sorry, I just had to point that out. Now we are off to Motleyville, Crypt's favorite level for some reason. Oh yeah, I forgot about the music. The soundtrack here, it's fine I guess, it's really nothing special. And in my opinion it's a huge downgrade. Like there are still some bangers, but in SSA and Giants almost every single piece was a banger. And the best music here is most of the time just remixes from Spyro's Adventure. But anyways, back to Motleyville, where we are searching for Sharpfin, and we see this mysterious looking German called Baron von Shellshock, and we approach him because what could possibly go wrong? And then he evilizes the bird and puts Flynn and Tessa in the same cage as Sharpfin, and I always wondered why we weren't the ones trapped. Like, it would have been a cool start if you first had to, like, escape a prison and then beat him. But this is one of the longest levels in the game, so I can ignore it. But we do start with an immediate boss fight against Whiskers. And then Whiskers runs away, and so does Shellshock. But they gave him a German accent, and I love it. He's definitely one of the best NPCs from this game. And speaking of great NPCs, we meet Sharpfin here, and he's really cool as well. He's like a drug dealer on a redemption arc pretty much, and I really didn't expect to see that in Skylanders, but I can't say I dislike it. On a side note, can somebody explain to me what was the point of adding so many Chompy variants? Almost every level there is a new Chompy, and I don't really get what most of them even do. Especially these two. They just seem like regular Chompies, but anyways, we travel through the desert blowing shit up and killing all sorts of enemies. We go on rail grinds which can actually kill you because of these moving mines, and just seeing a rail grind in a desert, it gives me PTSD. But yeah, the whole level consists of chasing Baron von Shellshock while he throws numerous obstacles in your way, and around the middle you get to fight Whiskers, and this time you manage to turn him back to his old self. And throughout the level he constantly teases us with this surprise weapon, and I mean, if it was a surprise, wouldn't it make sense if it didn't tell us? It just seems a bit stupid to me. But we also get a new golem here, it's the Earth one, and the Earth golems just make a shockwave and that's it. They are probably the easiest golem to defeat. And one thing I personally like about this level is how well hidden some of the collectibles are. You really have to look everywhere to find everything, which is something I enjoy doing. And once we reach the end of the level, we get to fight Shellshock in his secret surprise weapon. And it's really nothing special. The weapon doesn't even do much. It just throws bombs and chompies at you. And so you defeat him, and then he gets beat up by Sharpfin's gang. And that's about it. And Motleyville is great, and I enjoy it more nowadays than I used to, but my opinion still hasn't changed much. It's an 8 out of 10. After that, Vlog unlocks a new area in Woodboro, and it's an area for fishing. Amazing. So I did the fishing, and all you get from it is some gold, and that's it, which is why I will never return here. Goodbye. And now we are off to save the Terra Squid because Sharpfin owes us a favor after we freed him. And next level is Twisty Tunnels, and this is the worst level in the game. And here is where a certain issue becomes pretty apparent. I'm fine with the first 4 sort of jungle or forest levels because they all looked quite different. But here we have 3 desert levels in a row. And come on, it's a desert, the most boring place ever. And spending more than 3 hours here in a row isn't enjoyable at all. And the same happens with the snow levels. You get 3 of them in a row, but I'll talk about them individually later. First we have to get past Twisty Tunnels, and before the start of the level, Chaos gets scared by his mom again and he teases us the next plan, and that's the Fire Viper, and it's the only good thing about this level together with the Terra Squid. Though I expected it to look a lot more menacing than this. I mean, he's kind of cute, but he's still one of the rare good things about this level. And when it comes to the Terra Squid, I like how a lot of the obstacles are based around the Terra Squid, and that's about it. The goal here is to obviously stop Chaos from evilizing the Terra Squid, and this is the first level where you see trolls, and they are slightly different, but I don't think it's a bad design change, and they are similar to previous ones, but their attacks are slightly changed. One thing that had potential in this level is the shrinking stuff where you go inside a crystal to destroy it, but these areas are so dead. They are all pink and you just jump over the electrifying stuff, and that's about it, so that's pretty disappointing. I mean, even Superchargers did the shrinking thing perfectly, so Swap Force has no excuses. Oh damn. I died. Twice. Well, I guess it's time for Drobot.
Link and destroy.
It never gets old. Magnashift may be the best Skylander overall, but he will never have the sauce that Drobot has.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Anyways, can I complain about this elemental gate where I almost died multiple times because the way it's built is so weird. Like you're supposed to lower the water levels for the sharks on the sides by continuously jumping on the moving bounce pad, but you're constantly being shot at by the fireballs that you can't even see quickly enough for you to dodge them, and it's very easy to die because of that. Like I even had to take a break just to heal so I wouldn't die, which is dumb for an elemental gate like this. At least we get the coolest stat from giants in it, so I guess it's fine. We also meet the air golem in this level, and it just pulls you towards him in order to slam you. And that's about it. It's easy to defeat it, but when there are other enemies as well, it can get very annoying. And around the middle of the level, we get a turret section, and the turrets were always annoying in Giants and SSA, but that's because they were boring. But now, they're both boring and insanely hard. I mean, this one is not that bad, but you can still easily die on this turret section, which is the dumbest thing ever. I don't know why they made that a thing. And this is still the worst level in the game. 1 out of 10. Let's move on. Oh wait, we can't, because we rescue the terror squid and then get her gender reveal.
The ancient terror squid is a girl! Really? Huh. That's a moment.
And then Flynn leaves us and Sharpfin alone to fight the Fire Viper, and that's how the boss fight starts. It's another good boss fight, and it has a decent difficulty when it comes to the no damage objective, as some of the fireballs can be too weird to predict, but you can always take the route around them, so it's not a huge problem. And when he swallows us after we destroy his head crystals, you can just jump on top of his heart, and the fire golems cannot touch you, so that's a useful cheese if you want to use it. Once we get back to the Woodboro, Tess and Willock give us a turret so we can practice. So I tried it out, and I thought it would be logical to hit the mines. They seem equally as dangerous as the lava balls, but I guess I'm supposed to shoot only fireballs, because once I shoot the mines, it immediately kicks me out. Like it didn't even give me a warning, which is really dumb. Well, fuck you guys, I anyways didn't like the turrets. Now we need to rescue the ancient Frosthound, who is located in some snowy area, but first we need to find out where that is, and we need the Frost Elves' help for that, but they are under an attack from the good old Cyclopses, so we must help them. The fire golems burned down the bridge that we are supposed to cross with this vehicle, so now we have to find another way to get to the ship, and that's what this level is about, escorting this vehicle and helping Avril, who is a new NPC we meet. She's a frost elf, obviously, but this is another bad level. There is nothing interesting when it comes to the way this level is structured, except for maybe the fossils. They are kinda cool because they do love dinosaurs, but the highlight of this level are turret sections. And the second turret in this level is horrible. I hate it, and I die here almost every time I play this level. It's really obscure to me that they decided to take away your Skylander's health instead of giving the turret a health bar, and because of that they have caused so much more problems with the turrets, and I hate them. Apart from that, it's nice that we fight against Cyclopses, and they are different than they used to be. We have this guy with a spear, this guy with the magnifying glass, and there are more that we meet later, like the one who shoots snowballs and the one that has a ton of armor but is actually quite easy to kill. And another thing I find interesting here is that once you enter one of these houses, you get a timer to beat the enemies in order to get the treasure chest, and I feel like this could have happened more throughout the game. Though to be fair, I've never failed it, so I don't know what happens then, but it's still a decent idea, which could have been used more. Apart from that though, this level is too long and sucks, and I'd give it a 2 out of 10. But now that we have rescued the Frost Elves, Avril joins us on our adventure, and she tells us that we need to go to Winterkeep to get the Illuminator so we can see through the forest mountains where we can find the ancient Frost Out. So now we are going to Winterkeep, where we see that the Frost Elves are in a huge snowball war with Cyclopses, which is a really weird concept, but I really like it.
I can't feel my face.
You feel that, don't you?
Ow, it's not my face. And actually, I'm feeling quite toasty, thank you.
This part actually made me chuckle. This is finally something funny. And now we meet the father from How to Train Your Dragon, and we also see that the Illuminator is actually a giant horn on a Whirlwind statue, and we find out in the story scroll that Whirlwind made it, and this just makes this whole level even better, and now I have very high expectations for it. And is it good? No. It's another disappointing level. The gimmicks here are rail grinds with snowballs, where it's pretty easy to get hit for no reason, shoveling, which is actually painful, especially in this elemental gate, and these canyons where we shoot body parts of the poor snowmen who are being sacrificed, and yeah, all of these gimmicks suck. And apart from every single enemy getting hit with a snowball in their own cutscenes, there isn't much great about this level. I guess I like the part where the Illuminator gets frozen, but it lasts only for like a minute, and then everything is back to normal, meaning that this served no purpose, and I guess the final fight is fun, but then again this is the level which introduces these pricks, and the Ice Golem, who annoys me especially because the Ice element doesn't even exist, and there is not a Water Golem. So this should have been the Water Golem. So yeah, the bad definitely outweighs the good in this one. But yeah, we help yet another species to survive, and we get the Illuminator as a reward, and Winterkeep gets a 3 out of 10. And now we are off to Frostfest Mountains. Before the level starts, we actually see Chaos's mom with Glomshanks, and it's nice seeing Glomshanks being happy for once. And it would be an interesting story if we saw, for example, Glomshanks choose between Chaos and his mom and betray one of them, or something like that. But that doesn't happen, which is a shame, but we do see the upcoming boss fight in Mesmeralda.
Really, Mother? Puppets? Are you planning on boring them to death? Ha!
We crash our ship, which is completely ignored in the plot for some reason, so I guess I'll ignore it as well. And we meet Slambam's Yeti kind, and he tells us something weird is going on, and that we need to light up the villages in order to progress through the forest. And then he disappears. And this is a small thing, but his dialogue always seemed weird to me with the way they're moving their heads. I don't know why, but it's just off to me. Anyways, this level is actually solid. I love that it's one of the shorter levels, I love the obstacles that Mesmeralda puts here that prepare us for the boss fight, and I love the darker look of the forest and then the more vibrant look of the Yeti villages. But the biggest problem with the level are the Yeti villages. Basically, this guy has a chili dog, and in order for the dog to dig us out a treasure chest, we first need to beat 3 minigames to get free dog toys. And my god, these games are bad. 2 of them are made for literal 3-year-olds. It's a memory game, and this game which everyone knows, but I don't know what it's called. And then there is the 3rd minigame, which is collecting apples while trying to avoid mines, and you can easily die in them. I don't know how we went from a memory game to getting blown up by mines, and all of that just for this dog to give me a treasure chest. Wow. I'm glad he gets civilized later. But then we get to the 2nd village, and we have to do them again. Because of this dumbass kid who is collecting teddy bears. Amazing. What a way to make a great level annoying. But it has actually grown on me a little bit, so I'd give it a 7 out of 10, but yeah, we rescue the Frost Sound at the end of the level, or that's what we think, because he quickly gets captured by Mesmeralda, and it's time to start the next boss fight. This intro cutscene is amazing, and it really represents what the fight is like, because this is the best boss fight in this game. It's so much fun, it's the perfect challenge, and the amount of stuff that's thrown at you is great, and on top of that everything is theater themed, so this boss fight is just perfect. Puppets, bombs, lights, and spinning axes is something you always see in the theater, so I love this, and even the theater puns she makes are kinda funny, like bombing on stage when she throws bombs at you. Anyways, I need to flex that I beat her without taking damage on the first try, so this one isn't that hard, and it's time to move on now. The ancient tree spirit will come on her own, so we have done everything, but surprise surprise, Chaos is going to attack her himself. Amazing. And now we have the next level, which is Phantasm Forest. And this intro cutscene is actually great. It hypes me up for the level, and the level looks gorgeous, so... Is it good? No. It's atrocious. It's definitely one of the worst Skylanders levels ever. I mean, we pretty much start off with the fishing stuff, so you can tell where this is going. This whole forest is on evilized fire, and we must put it out, but we need to use this firefighting vehicle, which is basically just a reskin of a turret. And there are 3 of these sections, including a horrible chaos boss fight, which is the worst boss fight in the game. And the part of the level where you're playing with a Skylander isn't that bad, but it's so long even for swap for standards. Though I like the water balloon stuff, and one thing I've noticed is the huge difficulty spike in this level and the next one. And all of a sudden this game is even more brutal with all the trolls and undead spellpunks and even the new tech gear golem, which is a nightmare to fight when there are other enemies in the same area. Phantasm Forest does have one of the best elemental gates ever, where you're supposed to help this guy find his friend, only for them to turn into spellpunks, which is actually great. But this level still sucks and it gets another 3 out of 10. Around this part of the game, a lot of glitches can start to occur, and don't get me wrong, when I say a lot, I don't mean trap team levels, but still, I mean a decent amount. It can be enemies flying around the area, which is very common in the snowy levels, or stuff like NPCs not standing where they are supposed to be. I don't mind them at all though, I just wanted to point it out that this game was probably rushed towards the end. I'm guessing the tree spirit part of the story was supposed to have its own 3 levels like the 2 ancients before it, but it only got 1, which is weird. And there is also this water spellpunk, which is only in bonus missions, which shows that there was probably a level where the water spellpunk was supposed to be. But yeah, we beat Chaos again, and we saved Skylands again. Now the celebration can start, but wait, what happened to Chaos's mom? Oh yeah, she came to the celebration to rescue Chaos and kidnap Tessa, and this is kind of insulting to me. If she can just teleport stuff, why did she teleport Tessa and not us? I mean, we are a much bigger threat than Tessa. I honestly don't understand what they were thinking, and this makes me like Chaos's mom even less. So now it's time to kick her ass. Flint's ship finally gets fixed and it's all upgraded and stuff. It even has an invisible mode, which we use to get into Chaos's fortress, but more importantly, it has a jacuzzi.
You know we don't have a jacuzzi.
Can you believe that? Can you believe we don't have a jacuzzi?
Final level of the game, Chaos's Fortress. It's a factory level and immediately we are off to a horrible start because we meet another horrible NPC, Softpaw. He's everywhere in this level and he's very annoying and I hate him, but he helps you get through the defense system in Chaos's factory by giving you a skateboard and dressing you up as a sheep to avoid the security system. And I must say this is a pretty shitty security system when it can't see the difference between a Skylander sheep and a Minecraft sheep. There is also a really random King Kong reference with a Chompy, which is actually hilarious and I love it, but this level is also full of goo, including these annoying Chompies, and the level of difficulty is pretty high, just like in Phantasm Forest, and I died multiple times, which means you already know what. Drobot. Man, I love him, but yeah, the level is just not that great. It's pretty mid, and I'd give it a 4 out of 10. But once we finish the level, we get to fight Chaos's mom, and it's another disappointing boss battle because we don't even fight her or defeat her. We beat up her evilized victims, including a cool little boss battle against Baba Greebs, the mother of all Greebles, and that's it. The only interesting thing about her fight is when she disappears and you are supposed to take off your figure to find her, but I actually dislike this part, so this whole boss fight is an absolute miss. I mean, the mini boss fight is better than the actual entire boss fight, which is embarrassing. And the no damage objective here is actually one of the hardest things to do in this game, but it's not too hard. I recommend using Magna Shift as always, but for Bubba Greebs I recommend Wash Shift, because he can trap Greebles in bubbles so they won't move for a couple of seconds, and then they won't be able to hit you. Thankfully though, Chaos managed to get to the volcano without anyone noticing, and he put all of his Evil Ice crystals inside of it so that he can spread evil across Skylands. So as any normal villain would do, he decided to tell us exactly what he's going to do so that we can get to him in time to stop him. Honestly, the plot just committed suicide in my eyes, because there is no reason for him to do this when he's so close to finally succeeding. Anyways, we have to get over the final fight. It's him getting evilized by thousands of crystals and turning into Super Evil Chaos, which is an absolutely horrible name for a final boss fight. Super Evil. Who created this? A fucking 4-year-old. That's actually probably true, because as soon as the fight starts we see that he's wearing underwear with hearts on it, which is such a pointless joke. It's like those Drake the type of guy joke, but yeah, at least the boss fight is great, so I can forgive him. It's destroying Super Evil Chaos's body parts like feet, teeth, brain and head, and this part is actually quite funny. But yeah, we defeated him, saved Skylands, and then he gets Glomshanks' legs and becomes tall, which is really cool. I cannot wait for the next game to see what happens with this part of the story. And we're actually still not done with the levels, because there are 2 new adventure packs, Time Tower and Shipwreck Island. So let's start off with Time Tower. This is the best level in the game. I love it. It looks beautiful, has a really neat time gimmick, and puzzles are actually really fun. Enemies can be fought in multiple ways, and we have the Clock Gear Golem and Time Spellpunk, which add more spice to your battles. Time Spellpunks can also mess with your puzzles, which I also like, but I prefer to anyways do the puzzle without even killing them. It's actually a really good feeling, and the point of the level is to go across this huge and open area and find 3 gears to unlock the tower where we fight Clock, who is messing with the time machine, which actually creates a Flint clone, and as you can tell, Clock is the boss fight in this level, and while he's just a reskin of the Whiskers fight, he is at least really cool, and the Whiskers fight is solid, so this one is as well. Even the end is great, as it's revealed that Clock is actually very small. I love absolutely everything about this level, except the length, but it's the only 10 out of 10 in this game. After this one though, I have high expectations for Shipwreck Island, and once again I am let down because it's not good. Sheep Mage is the boss fight here, and he's trying to make, I'm guessing, an army of sheep, and Flynn gets turned into a sheep, so we need to defeat the Sheep Mage before he turns more things into sheep. It's long, boring, and the Sheep Mage is a bad copy of Chompy Mage. I mean, this guy can turn into an insanely huge sheep, which can probably eat us all alive, but all he does is blow fucking wind. What a cool enemy. And the boss fight is also pretty lame. There is a new golem here, and it's the Vortex Golem. This thing is really cool. It can spawn enemies and shoot tornadoes at you, so you can get close to it so that it can slam you. It may not work sometimes, but that's fine. And I've tried to ignore the humor as much as possible, but this sheep joke is just not funny and wastes time for no reason, because we already saw this joke 2 levels ago, and I guess the tornado teleportation is fine, and I will admit that this level is nowhere near as bad as I used to think, but it's still nothing special. It feels like a 5 out of 10 to me, and that's it for the levels. If I look at them overall, I'd give them like a 6 or a 5 out of 10, I'm still not sure, but it's definitely a downgrade from Giants, and this is my updated ranking of the levels now that I've played them even more. I also haven't graded the bosses because it's harder to do so because they are much shorter, but overall, even though there are some misses, they are much better than the bosses in Spyro's Adventure and are slightly better than the boss fights in Giants, and if I'm looking at all of them together, I'd say the bosses here are like a 7 out of 10. So there you go, I finally said something positive about this game. But don't worry, we will soon return to the negativity, because even though I've completed the levels, now we only have all the other stuff to do. So let's start with the swap zones. This is just replaying the same swap zone, but now you have objectives, for fuck's sake. Anyways, let's start with the teleportation. This one's easy, just don't get hit, collect 9 runes, and the middle objective is always just collect the free swap medals, so this one is boring, but at least it's not hard. Now we have climbing, and this is the best one. It has locations from the levels it's in, it's challenging but in a good way, and the goal is to not get hit, and they slowly get more obstacles, so it's fine. Yes, it's possible that you just cannot advance sometimes because RNG is not on your side, but it's anyways quite short, so I can ignore it. Next up it's the rocket zone, and you have a timer and you cannot get hit. Going through rings adds more time, and these ones are pretty boring, but the first one and the last one are pretty tough, so at least it's slightly interesting. Even though the last one is more infuriating than tough, but you get the point. It also sucks when your timer rounds out literally at the end, and I don't like the hitboxes of the obstacles, but it's fine I guess. And now we have the dig zone. Oh my god, the dig zone. Where do I even start? I am convinced some of these are actually impossible to do. The goal is to finish before a certain time, and these times are pretty much impossible. I was trying the first one and I just couldn't do it. On my first run I was 12 seconds behind, so I put on my fastest hat and started using second player because you can stop time, and it was pretty useful here. I managed to beat it, and the same happened with the next one. I had to go through minecarts just to do it, and still I was 3 seconds behind, and not to mention I can only get hit once because it's nightmare mode and it takes half of your health. I tried really hard and failed many times, but I managed to beat it at the end. Then I accidentally skipped the third one and went to the fourth one, and the fourth one is actually impossible. I was 12 seconds away from the required time. I honestly cannot believe that I cannot complete this game because of this challenge, which is impossible. But I swear, I remember I did it on my old save file on the Wii. Maybe it's different there, cause I mean this is clearly impossible. I just don't understand why they would make something like this and not even test it. And there I was, sitting and wondering, will I ever be able to complete this game? Is this it? Am I really going to give up this far into the video?
Some of us are trying to enjoy our lives here. Stop complaining.
Oh my god, it's the Crypt Crusher. Why is he here?
Yeah, enough chit chat. Each objective can be completed in their own runs, you imbecile. Stop trying to collect everything and beat the time at once. As you said, some of them are probably impossible because they're not designed that way. You have turned a very easy task into a nightmare. Congratulations. You've ruined my day. You've ruined it.
Nah, no way that he's right. Let me check.
New record.
Oh, damn, he was right. Well, as I was saying, I actually quite like the dig zones. I love the darkness of the area, and some of the obstacles like minecarts and lava bolts are great, even though I move much slower than I'd like to. Let's move on. Next up we have the bounce zones. These ones are way too boring. You jump slowly from platform to platform, and the objective is to jump on every platform, which seems easy, but it gets so boring once you realize that there are so many of them, and if you try to save time and fall, you gotta do it all again, so this one sucks. And the sneak zone is kinda fine, but I also kind of hate it. You move way too slowly and you die insanely quickly from these lasers, and the goal is to never be seen, which is fine, but I'm just not patient enough for this. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. And since the objective here is to not get spotted, it also leads to stuff like this where you just waste time. I am also convinced that it's impossible to do both of them in one run on this sneak zone because of this area where you have the camera looking at you and the pathways covered with lasers. But I tried to be smart and failed a couple of times, meaning I had to replay this even more and waste more time, and man, I am so tired of replaying stuff. This is as repetitive as Crash 4, but at least the gameplay there was fun. This is all boring. And now we have the speed zone, and I actually enjoy this one. It's quick, simple, and the goal is to finish under a certain time, but this time, it's actually possible.
Look at this devious ASF walk. He's so devious. He's a straight menace.
And we have spin for the last one. These ones are actually horrible. They were already fully luck-based when I was doing them during the levels because you just fly all over the place in hopes of getting to the middle, but now you cannot use the move that quickly destroys stuff, which makes it 10 times worse and 10 times slower. I don't understand why they even gave us that move if we aren't even supposed to use it. However, even though they suck, they aren't that hard. Except from this one. This is the hardest swap zone in the game, and it's only because of the addition of mines. The spin swap zones are bad, but you can never get killed in them, so you only fail by falling off. But by adding the mines, and considering this is nightmare mode where you get killed with 2 hits, this sucks. And because of the stupid fact that stuff takes half of your health, no matter how much health you have, you will always be a 2-hit. So I tried to do it, and there were so many fails. They give you a solid amount of food, but it doesn't help that much. I had no idea how to do this without having some godlike luck. I did get lucky a couple of times, don't get me wrong, there were some cases where I'd hit a mine and for some reason it doesn't damage me at all, but there were so many other situations where I was insanely unlucky. Then later, I thought about using the power-up you get from player 2 as it helped me in the dig zones, and this is where I finally started to make some kind of progress. The power-up is a huge ball which may not seem that helpful, but if you don't move at all, and you must not move because as soon as you move a little, it's almost impossible to stop, and then you'll start deflecting all over the place, eventually leading to you hitting a mine or falling off. So, stand still, shoot the ball, and hope it destroys all the mines. Now this tactic isn't perfect either because first of all, the ball can move you as well, and as I've said, once you start moving, there is no stopping, but also if you end up in a weird position, the ball will get launched off the island, so you will have to move at that point. And another bad thing is that it obviously destroys the side of the island as well, making it easier for you to fall off, but I don't see how you can do this without the ball. I wasn't even holding my controller here, and look how much I'm moving. I even had this attempt where everything went right, and I just needed to destroy the chaos statue, and then at the end, I just flew off the island for no reason. I didn't move to the right at all, I didn't deflect, I just flew off. I honestly don't know what happened here, and why I went so far to the right even though I was going left, and you can imagine how pissed off I was. Thankfully though, I did sort of do it the next try. I did miss the swap medals, so I had to redo it again, but at least now I could speed it up with the tornado move, and I was already used to this, so it went faster, but still, this is top 2 hardest things to do in this game. And this is how I'd rank the swap zones altogether, and overall, I hate them. All of them, and they are by far the worst part of this game. If I was to rank them like I did with the levels, I'd honestly give them a 0 out of 10, but they are just bonus content, so I will just ignore them. But now that we have all 126 stars there, it's time for arena battles. They are great. The different challenges you get are most of the time great fun, and it can get pretty chaotic at times with all the stuff happening on screen, and this time we get stars from them by doing the score objectives, and you get more points by playing on a higher difficulty, so on nightmare mode you'll always get these free stars as long as you don't get hit every second, because your points multiply by a certain number, and that number depends on how much you deal damage, and it goes down every time you're hit. But again, if you're playing on nightmare mode, you'll definitely get all 3 stars, so the biggest challenge is just staying alive. But you get a lot of food, and food is buffed in this game as well, I forgot to mention that. It can give you more than 400 health at times, and it's quite common throughout levels, and in arenas there are items now, and some of them deal damage to enemies, they can give you a shield or make you faster, and in between rounds, instead of just getting a small amount of food, now you have this guy that you can beat up to get food, and if you kill him he drops a lot of money, and this is much better than what we had in Giants. But on Nightmare mode it's actually quite hard to kill him with most of the Skylanders, which is a shame considering that this is supposed to be just a bonus between rounds, but I honestly try harder to kill this guy than stay alive in arenas because I want all the gold. And there are 5 different arenas and they all have 4 different challenges. The first arena is in the jungle. The first one is freeing gobblepods so they can help you, and it's not that great, but it is good as an introduction. Then we have the good old constantly getting hit challenge where you need to defeat enemies to get food so you can heal, and spikes are added, and this one is pretty fun. These arenas are also not challenging to me because I'm using Magna Shift in most of them, so I'm a bit of a coward here, but I also don't care. The next one is the one I hated in Giants. It's trying to protect something in the middle of the arena, which is very hard when there are multiple enemies attacking from all sides, and Chompies are no longer a one-hit enemy, and these shooting trees spawn out of nowhere and start destroying your fruit, and it's very unfair when there are this many enemies at once and you somehow have to defend the fruit. But I actually did this one on my first try, but barely, and when I had to replay the arenas, this is the only one I didn't do on my first try, and it was definitely the hardest one, and even when I beat it after like 4 tries, I just about managed to do it, so this is the one that I dislike the most. The last one here is just an invasion of Chompies, and that's it. Now the sand arenas have 2 boss fights, which is actually really cool. And while one of them is just Evilized Whiskers again with a more original name, the other one is a completely new one. It's a snake. You defeat it by activating the flutes, and it's a decent fight. The other 2 arenas are again constantly getting hit and just fighting enemies, which in my case is throwing enemies into the pit of death. Unfortunately, in some of them they closed the pit, but that didn't stop me from throwing the enemies over the invisible wall. Sometimes they did get stuck here, but I managed to overcome those problems because at this point I am too good at this game. The ice arenas have the same 2 challenges, but you also have one with the bombers, and it's not that interesting, and they bring back the 1 health challenge, which is great. The one with the cloud hitting you is probably the hardest in the game. I feel like if I wasn't using Magna Shift or Drobot, I would probably never beat it. But then we have an arena only unlocked by Shipwreck Island, and one challenge is to stop the golems from entering the vortexes, and it's pretty impossible to do it when there are 2 of them at once, but luckily you have 3 lives and that only happens twice, so it's not a problem. Then you have again the clouds hitting you, but this time you also need to stop Cyclopses from entering the vortexes so they don't turn into stronger Cyclopses. Or you can just let them do that. In both cases it's pretty easy to beat them. There is one with giant Chompies and another one with giant Chompies, but also with the pufferfish and a huge ton of golems. But now that we are done with the arenas, we can move on to the other stuff. Oh wait, we only got 48 stars from these arenas, but you need 120. Well, that's because there are other modes, that being Team Survival and PvP. PvP is not needed for stars, but it is insanely fun. I don't have gameplay because I don't have friends, but back in the day we used to play it all the time and it's really fun. You have multiple arenas, multiple stuff you can change like items, food and lives, and it's really good. Anyways, the Team Survival is what you need for stars, and it's just beating the same stuff again, but with a second player. But since I don't have anybody to play with, it was literally just dying immediately and then beating the same arena again. This is where the arenas really became boring. This game is full of pointless replaying, as you know, and this is another example. The survival mode doesn't have stars, so why does the team mode have them? I just don't understand. And then on my first try the game stopped working, and since these enemies have shields, I couldn't kill them, meaning I had to replay the arena again, which just added more rage to my body. However, I noticed something. I got 48 stars from solo arenas, and I'd get another 48 from team arenas, which would be 96 stars, and I would still be missing another 24 stars. But thankfully, I am smart and I remembered I had the crossbow, which is a battle item which I accidentally bought years ago just for camo, and it did unlock new arenas. These ones are great and they are beach themed. Trolls have reskins so that they fit with the beach theme, and the arenas are fun as well. Two of them are defending a sand castle, and this time it's not obnoxiously hard because not all enemies attack the sand castle, thank goodness, and you can also activate these canyons that absolutely obliterate everything in front of you, and one of the modes has them attacking you, but they are much slower because this would just be unfair. Or not, they decided it wasn't unfair, I guess, since you do get attacked like that, but thankfully there are no enemies at that point, so you can focus on staying alive. The last one is defeating sandcastles, the spawn chompies, and that's it. As for the team survival, it's just replaying, so we can completely just skip it. But before we skip it, I just want to say that I was able to play a stealth elf, even though she had 0 health. I have no idea how this happened, but I enjoyed it. Now that we have 120 stars here, it's time for bonus missions, and I love these. They all have a small plot which is pretty interesting, and they are all different, and there is no pointless replaying, and finally I can enjoy something without the need to replay it. And every single bonus mission is good, and they're like much better versions of heroic challenges, so I'm just shortly gonna explain what's going on in them. Each one has a score mode like arenas, but this time just beating them in time gives you enough score to get all 3 stars, so it's not a problem in the slightest. There are 20 of them, and the plots are beating all sorts of golems to save turtles, turning valves off, helping yetis get out of ice creams, fixing ice machines, returning the instruments stolen by trolls to kangaroos, killing chompies, which is using the same thing from SSA with choosing teleporters that lead you to chompies or an ambush, killing greebles that are pretending to be sheep, stopping the greebles from evilizing statues, and I love that we are finally able to kill these guys who have been evilizing animals all this time, but for some reason we couldn't fight them. And speaking of not being able to fight enemies, yeah, this was fun. Continuing with the bonus missions, there is a bonus mission where you destroy harpoons. One of them has a boss fight against Master Chef. It's nothing special, it's just fighting a big greeble and life spell punks, but it's still nice. The snake is also back in one of them. One of them is stopping the greeble thieves by hitting them and collecting the gifts they drop. There are 2 of them where you rescue ghosts. This one where you feed cakes to gobblepods, this one where you collect food, this one where you collect these blue things and avoid mines, and the red things. This is probably the worst one, but it's not bad, it's just kind of boring. There is also killing armored cyclopses to retrieve crystals, waking turtles up, and finally the last one is about rescuing a turtle's egg. They are all fun and could possibly be the best part of the game. I really enjoyed playing bonus missions, and now that I have all 60 stars here, next up it's the time attack challenges. These ones are just beating regular levels in a certain time, and even though they are clearly made for lower difficulties, I am decent at speedrunning Swap Force, so none of them were problems to me, and you anyways get a ton of these tokens which stop time for you, and since I was using Magna Shift, who can collect them from a big distance just by activating the magnet, there were times where I stopped time for more than a minute. I actually enjoyed the time attack, even though it was replaying the level again. However, they are probably impossible when it comes to the boss fights. The bosses are not too hard, but the exceptions are Mesmeralda and Glomshanks. I beat Mesmeralda on my first try, but only by 2 seconds, so this can definitely be challenging to a lot of people, but at least it's possible. Glomshanks, on the other hand, is impossible on Nightmare mode. The time required is 1 minute and 45 seconds, and I can't even finish the second round by then, let alone beat the entire boss, so this is absolute bullshit. Thankfully, you can cheese the boss with Sprocket, which is a huge and very lucky coincidence, cause I wouldn't be able to complete the game without it, and this is the only boss fight where this can happen, so yeah, take that, you people who claim Sprocket is useless. Now that we have done that, we have score mode, This is replaying the levels yet again, but this time with the score mode, just like arena battles and bonus missions, and this time you can go up to 30 with the multiplier and you get shields that stop you from losing the multiplier, and you get these items that increase your multiplier, but I absolutely hate the score mode. You play them how you would normally go through a level and it's very boring. I am getting very sick of this game at this point. I mean, at least it's possible, but I cannot stand it if I'm being honest. Anyways, I'm just going to skip that, and now that we are done with that, we only have accolades left. These ones shouldn't take a long time. I anyways did this entire category just by completing the game. The second category only has a couple of accolades left, and one of them requires opening 40 jewel elemental gates, and it's fine because you just keep replaying Rampant Ruins, because it's the level where you can get to a jewel gate in only a minute. But I find this weird. If you give us like 20 jewel elemental gates, why would you ask us to open 40 of them? Why didn't you give us 40 of them in total? This just seems like pointless replaying once again. And the same happens with the next accolade. Open up 30 giant chests. Great. Thankfully, because of the checkpoint stuff, you can do this quickly because in Chaos's Fortress, the giant chest is right after the checkpoint, so as long as you just replay the level, you'll be fine, but once again, it's pointless replaying. Next up we have getting 2 bolts in 20 unique puzzles, and I have to complain again. This accolade did not even exist in the past. There was only one which said complete 20 unique puzzles, so I just did them without collecting the bolts. But now all of a sudden I have to do them with bolts as well, which is stupid because now I'm missing 4 puzzles and I have no idea which ones are they. So now it's time to enter a swap zone, return to Woodboro, pray to God that the skip button works on Rufus, and do puzzles. It took me a decent time to do them, but once I completed them, there was only the accolade to get a gold rank with the Skylander left, and Magna Shift was pretty much there. I just needed to beat myself in PvP 8 times. But I miscounted and only did it 7 times and went back to my save file, but instead of saying it completed, I not only didn't get the accolade, but I also lost the lock puzzle accolade that I just did.
What the hell?
My goodness, what else can go wrong at this point? I cannot believe this. So I had to do the puzzles again until I got the right one again, and then I beat the final PvP battle, and that was done as well. Now, all we have left are the collection accolades, so I took ownership of all my Skylanders and items and went to check out how many of them I did, and I got 73 out of 94 stars. But there was an accolade which I didn't notice, and that was getting all swap combinations, so now I have to do that as well. And to do that I have to switch to 80 different combinations, which is just amazing. And it took me actual 2 days to do that, but after I finally did that, now we can look at all accolades I won't be able to do. I am missing 1 orange-based Skylander, 14 OG Skylanders, 1 battle item, 1 sidekick, even though I have Mini Genie, but she doesn't count for some reason, 2 series free Skylanders, and 8 light cores. And I know I said I'm gonna complete everything, but I did mention that I'm gonna complete everything gameplay wise, and I'm not doing these because most of the stuff I'm missing here isn't sold in Serbia, and it would take months if I was to order from other countries, so I don't care, and it also costs a lot of money, so yeah, it makes sense for me to not do that. But with that, we are done with everything, so I just wanted to show you the entire save file. I collected all 143 out of 147 hats. Wait a minute, I'm missing 4 hats. You've got to be kidding me. I need variants for these hats. I am so done. This is the box with the free Skylanders I need.
The perfect swarm.
Yeah, I actually bought them. Anyways, we still have 1 more hat, but I don't understand how to get it. There is no explanation for this one. It just says it's a mystery. So I did some research, and it's like a card that unlocks a hat that came with the pre-order. So I went to see how much it would cost me, and yeah, I'm not doing this. You'd think that that hat would at least give you some insane stats, but it doesn't even give you maximum speed, so it's not worth it in the slightest. And anyways, now it's time to truly see my entire save file. Nah, I'm just kidding, here's footage of me turning to a sheep. Okay, now let's actually do it. Alright, here's the save file. I'm starting off with collection. I want to show you all the hats. As you know, I have 146 out of 147 hats. I've already explained why I won't get the UFO hat, and I simply don't care. I'm very happy with all other 146 hats. I also have all 48 legendary treasures, all 44 charms, all 20 bonus mission maps. You already know I have all 16 story scrolls, 140 Skylanders and 19 items, and all 256 swap combinations. And then this whole thing, 57 stars on story mode, 126 stars on the swap zones, 60 out of 60 stars on the bonus mission maps, 57 out of 57 on time attack, and also 57 out of 57 on the score mode, 120 out of 120 on the arena battles, and all of these accolades, 87 out of 87, and then the trophy one I have 53 out of 53, and then this backpack thing, 52 out of 52, and unfortunately I don't have all the stars here. I have 76 out of 94, which is a shame, but I don't care. So that's the save file. Now that we are done with completing the game, it's time for the end. Skylander Swap Force is kind of disappointing, but it's also kind of fine at the same time. It's a really weird feeling I have towards it. Unfortunately, it had a huge amount of potential with everything they tried. You know, the biggest roster, new graphics, new NPCs, worlds, enemies, everything was new and changed, but I feel like they changed too much and forgot to focus on actually making the levels good. And to me, the whole game has sort of lost the charm that the first two games had, and plus, as I said, this game has a seriously weak collection of levels when compared to other Skylanders games. I'd even argue that it's the second worst console game when it comes to the levels, only after Imaginators, and Imaginators is like the worst game ever, so that doesn't even count. And every single good thing they add has a huge downside as well. You know, the swap force are really fun to play with, but they also give us the swap zones, which are horrible. Arena battles are great, but then you have to replay them, and then they become very boring. Levels are already way too long, but add to that all the replaying, and the fact that there are multiple levels that are in the same location, and it becomes very tiring, and that's what I feel like now. Tired. So, it's time to wrap this up. Skylander Swap Force on the PS4 gets a 6 out of 10 because I'm feeling nice. But that's it for me though. I need to rest. Goodbye.